Welcome to the MiningNewsWire Podcast, powered by IBN. This original audio production delivers market and sector insights, as well as exclusive interviews with innovative executives shaping the future in fast-moving industries, and may feature a client partner of IBN or one of the 60-plus investor-focused brands within IBN's dynamic brand portfolio. As a multifaceted financial news and publishing company, IBN leverages its extensive distribution network, utilizing multiple proprietary corporate communication tools to introduce both public and private companies to a vast and diverse audience of investors, consumers, influencers, journalists, and other targeted segments of the public. IBN may have received compensation to produce this audio content. Please be sure to read IBN's entire disclaimers for full disclosures. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the next revelatory episode of IBN's MiningNewsWire Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the MiningNewsWire Podcast, brought to you by the Investor Brand Network. And I'm really excited today to be speaking with, for the very first time myself anyways, with Ucore. The company's traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the ticker symbol UCU, on the OTCQX under the ticker symbol UURAF. And I want you to go to their website because they have a lot of tremendous media and great background on what the company's doing in their projects. That's ucore.com. The letter U, the word core.com. And of course, visit us here at the Investor Brand Network. Click on the Clients tab. There in alphabetical order, you'll find the profile for Ucore with investment considerations, and we will actually love it if you start right there and look at those. But with that, let me introduce you to the company's CEO and chairman, and that is Pat Ryan. Pat, thanks so much for making time for us today.
Yeah, good to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to give an update on the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to that update, though, for those who may not be familiar with your company yet, and that would be the new investors we want to talk to, if you would give us the basic background building blocks of the company and the markets that you operate in.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of talk in the news recently. Wall Street Journal, New York Times, all sorts of TV casts about rare earth elements. And the reason it's such a hot topic is that there are real geopolitical trade war tensions going on between China and the U.S. right now, and China controls these rare earth element inputs. And those rare earth element inputs, although the word rare is probably a little misleading, they're actually controlled by China. On the mining side, they control 60% of the mining, but where they really take charge is that the refining and the processing, where you get the individual rare earth oxides that can be turned into metals and alloys and permanent magnets that drive, well, they're technology building blocks for the 21st century. And they've really taken control of that mid-market to the tune of 95% of that refining. Other industries as well, they've done a great job of controlling that critical mineral processing and refining, and rare earth is a very risky one for the Western world because defense applications such as F-35 fighters, missile guiding systems, night vision goggles, EVs, renewable energy on the emerging side of things, AI, robotics, all driven by rare earth permanent magnets. And China has that grip. So back in 2018, Ucore has a resource in Alaska. It's a heavy rare earth resource, and I'll speak about heavies a little bit here today. Heavy rare earths are the very tough, sawed-off, heavy rare earth elements. There are lights and there are heavies. The heavies are much more expensive and they're hard to come by. And they're actually 99.9% controlled by China, so a real grip on the heavies. But Ucore has been focused on the heavies. It has a resource in Alaska, potential for a future mine, but that's not the focus. The eureka moment back in 2018, 2019 was, if we develop the mine and bring it on stream, which could take 8 or 9 or 10 years, there's nowhere for the refining and processing to happen. All the concentrate would have to go back to China, and China would keep that material and it would use it for its own needs. And that's essentially what's gone around the world. China today only controls 60% of the mining, but they bring all the rest in from other countries like Brazil and Australia, Africa and elsewhere, and they control that refining and processing. So for Ucore, we looked at it and we said, you know what, let's find the best in kind processing technology right in the middle of the market, that mid-market, and let's create that bridge between the up-and-coming mines that are Western world and U.S. friendly and the downstream metal alloy and magnet makers. Let's create that bridge before these building blocks of technology. So we bought a company called Innovation Metals Corp back in 2019. We've invested well north of $10 million in just developing the tech to get it ready for commercial prime time. We've run thousands of hours at a commercial demo plant in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, about the size of 2 tennis courts. It used the same chemistry that they use in China, but it's so much more efficient because we have a column-based, computerized, 21st century digital manufacturing approach rather than huge football fields full of mixers and settlers and very slow and cumbersome and ESG not compliant Chinese techniques that they've taken charge of over 3 decades. So that mid-market and getting that refining, making sure the technology scales up, which we've been working on with our engineering team and our metallurgists, making sure the economics are sound to give you a real strong footing in the Western world, and making sure the markets and the market growth are there for your opportunity going forward. Those are kind of the risk markers that we've looked at. And now we're ready to move to commercial prime tie-in. So that's our model is let's get to that amid refining and processing and individual light and heavy rare earth oxides that feed the much necessary DoD and emerging industry of North America, of the Western world.
Yeah, the Western world, North America, that's the first investment consideration at Investor Brand Network. The company is closely aligned with national policy, receiving funding from both the U.S. Department of Defense and Natural Resources Canada. So let's learn about you, though, as our guest today and the team around you. And then I want to jump into that update that we talked about at the outset of this interview. Pat, tell us a little bit about what brought you here today and your background.
Yeah, sure. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. And when I was much younger, at 30 years old, I actually founded and started a tier one automotive supply company. I come from an area of Canada where, at the east coast of Canada, where there weren't many jobs for technically oriented people. And I realized that entrepreneurs were needed. And I started a company that is still going very strong today, supplying hundreds of millions of dollars a year to people like Nissan and Toyota and Honda and Mitsubishi and Mazda and GM and Ford and Stellantis and VW and you name it. Understand the very complex supply chains that are required to be a tier one supplier, is the most complex supplier in the automotive industry, and built a very strong company in that regard. But as I was building the company most recently, and we were continuing to grow, I could see the onset of the electric vehicle side of things. And as I looked more closely at the supply chains for electric vehicles, I realized, wait a minute, there are no metallic supply chains to feed these particular vehicles. I was a board member of Ucore at that time, and we were dealing with a resource in Alaska, and encouraged the board that we needed to look at actually building manufacturing plants, processing, and moving forward. And so my background is, in fact, building processing plants, dealing with complex supply markets, rare earth, just another market, but a very new one, and it needs 21st century digital manufacturing thinking, which means work cell mentality, quick to turn on, quick to turn off, flexibility so you can deal with multiple customers and multiple products. All that is in my background. So I'm pretty comfortable in the role that I'm in. I also know that it doesn't happen as a one-person show. So I've built a pretty strong team at Ucore. With the person who's sourcing feedstock for our first strategic metals complex, which will be in Louisiana, and we'll talk about that in a minute. He was actually one of the original founding management people at Lynas Corporation. Lynas is in Australia. They have a rare earth operating processing plant using solvent extraction, which is the legacy technology in Malaysia. But Jeff has been very helpful in moving us forward and finding multiple feedstocks around the world that are either near at hand or certainly fit the future metallurgy to bring us into an economic model going forward for our Louisiana strategic metals complex. We've also added very good project engineers. We've hired most recently a project manager for our Louisiana facility, which is who has actually built a solvent extraction plant, both heavy and light, 5,000 tons per annum. Very valuable person. 20 years of experience in that particular venue. Another person who's operated a rare earth processing refinery, and we've got that person on the Ucore team now. We also have a PhD out of Australia, very skilled at solvent extraction, which is the technology that we've taken to make that much more better for the Western world. And he's joined as our technology director in the last number of months. So again, very key people. I can go on with CFOs and other people that fit the bill as well. But the main horsepower you need are the good technical people to understand how to not make the mistakes today, so we can be the most low-cost, competitive, flexible, 21st century manufacturer for the Western world going forward. So the team is very, very well-rounded. With myself having a lot of experience in this arena, I'm very comfortable.
Well, as I prepared for your interview today, I got to watch some of the video that you've been doing online and on the television as well through streaming media. Lots going on with your company when we look at the press wire. So let's jump into that update by looking at what the company's accomplished so far in 2025, and then we'll ask what are your operational goals for the company moving forward. But as you see it, what are some of the milestones you've been able to achieve there at Ucore this year?
Sure. I'll go back just a little bit further than January of 25. It was back a couple of years ago when the U.S. Department of Defense put a bid out, and the bid was, you know what, we've got to find the technology for processing and refining in the mid-market, something that's very competitive, something that can take on the legacy solvent extraction, the very cumbersome, slow, ESG non-compliant process being used in China. They put a bid out to see who could step up and take their technology and essentially run many, many hours of demonstration of the technology to show the DoD that they had something that was very robust. We, a Canadian company, Ucore, won the bid. So you can imagine here's the US DoD stepping up and they go, wait a minute, this Canadian company has the real thing. They liked our tech. They liked what we were doing. They liked what we had developed at that point. And so we had a $4 million US contract to essentially run our commercial demonstration plant using multiple feedstocks, xenotimes, bastnaesites, monozites, running them through the plant and generating heavy and light rare earth products and running thousands of hours. And you know, from again, my background in the automotive, when you jump into full scale production, you're making a huge mistake if you just invest in a huge investment, a huge plant to move forward and turn it on, expect it to work on day one. You've got to have a very robust commercial demonstration program. And, you know, I've always been baffled by the plants that I walk into and I see their commercial demo plants, the size of a boardroom table with a couple of Bunsen burners and some duct tape to be smart. And you go, there's no way that's going to cut it. So our plant in Kingston is very robust. I mean, it's got it's the size of 2 tennis courts. It's all operated with PLCs and picks up sensors on this column-based technology that we developed. Our trade secrecy is probably more valuable than our IP right now. And all of that was developed pre-2025. So when 25 rolled around, in ongoing interactions with the DoD, they're taking a closer look. They said, well, the end game here is we need to take this technology and deploy it commercially. And so by the time March came around and they're, you know, coming to our Kingston plant, they're visiting, they're seeing what's going on, and they're coming to our building that we had identified in central Louisiana and seeing the landscape where we're essentially doing a copy and paste. See what you see in Kingston? We're going to copy and paste and put that into Louisiana and build a much bigger processing plant. They really liked what they saw. It's on an ex-Air Force base. It's actually a foreign trade zone. I would not have known 2 years ago when we found the building that a foreign trade zone would have so much significance today, but it really does because now you can bring input feedstocks in from Brazil, from Australia, from the Far East, not China, but from the Far East. These are feedstocks being tested at our Kingston plant, and you can actually bring them into our plant in Louisiana. You can process them, and you can send them back to customers that might be in Europe, they might be in Japan, they might be in South Korea. And there's no tariff consequence. It's a foreign trade zone. It was developed back in World War II on an ex-Air Force base. So the big news was that the DoD said, you know what, as part of this other transaction agreement we have with you, it's now time to invest further. So they invested $18.4 million in mid-May. By the end of May, we had a groundbreaking in Louisiana. We invited the DoD in. We also had people from Mike Johnson's office, representatives from Julia Letlow's office, Congresswoman in the area, Senator Cassidy, and people from the DoD. And they came to central Louisiana. They saw the air park where we were, the building where we're situated, and thought, this is game on. This is great. So that $18.4 million award really accelerated us, allowed us to amp up our engineering, accelerate our process flow sheets, engage with local contractors that we've identified for the process. For example, MetChem out of New England are very skilled at chemical plants. We were engaging much more effectively with them these days because now we're cashed up. We took the $18.4 million and we did what's called a life raise, which is a listed issuer financing exemption. That was intentional, and we wanted to get that done before the summer months hit to be able to take the news of the DoD and get a little more money in the bank to be able to execute and move our plan forward. Now that plan forward, which is 3 stages of production development, ends up with production of heavy rare earth and light rare earth elements pre-production, early production by mid-2026. That's first mover. That's key. And all the work we've done over the last 3-4 years has helped make that happen. So far in 25, to your question, it's been an engagement with DoD. It's getting very close to definitive feedstock agreements and several very strategic offtake arrangements that that our viewers and other shareholders will hear about here in the very near term that are very strategic in nature at this point.
Well, you heard it right there. Then keep a close eye on the newswire. Use those ticker symbols UCU and UURAF to track this company because, as you just pointed out very articulately, you really had the foundation built. But this is a watershed year because of external factors. Quite honestly, we like you just said, we just didn't know things were going to go down the way they did in the first calendar quarter between the U.S. and China, and it's not getting any better at this point. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about moving forward in 2025. And feel free, go beyond, as you just did, pointed out in 2026. There's going to be a lot happening for your company.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The with watershed moment, right place, right time. The foresight we had back in 2018, 2019 is now paying off today. A lot of attention. We just came off of a rare earth conference in Montreal where all the key players from around the world and in the Western world that are looking to develop their supply lines were at that conference. We probably had north of 25, 28 meetings with key individuals. And the reason I say that is because we're at a point now, because we're cast up and our technologies at a proven level and ready for commercial deployment. We've got a building, we're moving to the next stage. Now we can get beyond what a lot of the junior markets look at, which are, LOIs and MOUs that are one-off transactions that don't really mean a whole lot other than to wave a flag and go, look at us, we have an MOU. Now we're moving to definitive agreements and not just one-off transactions, but multiple prong opportunities to bring supply back to the Western world. So you've got a feedstock company, you've got Ucore processing and refining, you've got metal alloy company, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in South Korea, you've got magnet maker, whether it's in an up-and-coming US jurisdiction, or it's in South Korea, or it's in Japan. And you're putting those blocks together to create definitive partnerships, definitive agreements that allow you to get the job done very effectively. So yeah, heading into the remainder of 25, that's certainly our focus. We've got a couple of sources of feedstock that are hard to come by that are being penned out as a definitive agreement right now. And that's key. They've all been tested in our facility, and we've had due diligence done on us, meaning, hey, we're investing, call it a company A in Brazil. We're investing multiple millions of dollars in our mining development. We want to make sure at the end of the day, we're dealing with a company that can process and refine and achieve what we want in the Western world. So we've ticked those boxes, and we're well on our way in that direction. And then ongoing with the DoD, there was an executive order in mid-April. That executive order was essentially a directive from the administration that said, we're going to take 180 days to kind of pause and time out here and figure out where are the best investments to continue to make anew, to be able to bring supply back to the U.S. market. And we're part of that evaluation. So the ongoing opportunity under our OTA, because we're already in the door with DoD, is pretty significant. And we continue to discuss with DoD on a biweekly basis, what the next part of their journey looks like. And really what they've asked us to focus on is focus on heavy rare earth, focus on samarium and gadolinium, which are rare earths, but samarium is used in a samarium cobalt magnet that goes into an F-35 fighter, for example, and there is no samarium. And heavy rare earth, there is no heavy rare earth. So focus on that, get commercially sound with that, and not only will that help the industrial base, but it'll help the DoD, it'll help your semiconductor manufacturing, it'll help your AI, your robotics, which is the largest area of growth, it'll help emerging industries and the electric vehicle market as well as, offshore wind energy, et cetera, et cetera. So we're really moving quickly right now to take advantage of this watershed moment. And then you'll have the other updates too, which are the build out of our Louisiana plant, which is the copy and paste from Kingston into central Louisiana. It's an 80,800 square foot building. It's huge. It's got lots of acreage around it. It's got a 40-year lease. And we're intending to just continue to build in stages with that plant, enter the market, supply customers, and continue to make the economics more robust as we do.
Well, once again, you're tuned into the Mining Newswire. We're speaking with Pat Ryan. He's the chairman and CEO of Ucore. And Pat, with so many things talked about today, I'm not quite sure that we've left anything on the table, but I want to give you that moment for anything else you want to point out, or even just to step up on your soapbox, because you are a public company CEO. In addition to all the hats you have to wear as the chairman and CEO and the driving force behind this company, any closing thoughts or comments for your existing shareholders and to potential investors?
Yeah, certainly. I think from a capital going forward, we're going to look at the most non-dilutive approach to it. So We'll continue to work with the DoD and see if we can get additional funding to continue to move through our stage 1, 2, and 3 of production rollout in Louisiana. Second will be the offtake agreements, which are pre-purchase and supply agreements. So people are paying for their portion of our plant output. We're giving them a discount on their product once they start taking it to pay them back for the money they've invested. But it helps us build out the plant without having to, go for another raise, if you will. The third would be strategic equity, and not a big strategic equity, but strategic equity where there might be 1 or 2, even 3 players that we're interacting with right now that would really like to be in partnership with Ucore as an equity participant. And we're careful with that because we want to make sure that going forward, we have multiple feedstocks, so we've got some flexibility. And we want to have multiple customers, so we have flexibility. And that's the way I built my automotive career, was having that flexibility of inputs and outputs, and then working on the economics and the lean manufacturing and all the things that go into the middle of that process. But one last comment, and those of you that are following the rare earth industry at all would have heard that the DoD made a very significant investment recently in MP Materials. And MP is the only operating rare earth mine in North America. In fact, there's only been one rare earth mine opened in North America in 60 years. So they have one resource, and the DoD was serious enough to say, we're going to make an investment in MP Materials. It was quite sizable, and they actually did it as an equity investment in MP Materials. And in doing that, they also set a floor on the pricing, NdPr, which is the light rare earth side of things. They put $110 per kilogram, which is about twice the spot price of China. And we applauded that for 2 reasons. One is the U.S. has determined they're not going to let the trade wars and where the cards fall after all the negotiation to determine how much rare earth export China will allow to come back to the U.S. market. They've actually said, we're going to take charge of this ourselves with significant investments. The second is by establishing that pricing model, now the manipulation that China goes through every day of the week in the various nodes of the supply chain, they can control the margin, control the price at any point, and it makes it tough for the Western companies to compete and engage. Very intentional on behalf of the China government, and so that floor pricing set by the DoD changed the rules of the game. So we're working closely with the DoD to advance not the NP style agreement, but something like that gives you floor pricing for heavy rare earth, for example, and also continues to show the investment that the U.S. will make in taking their national defense needs and emerging industry needs and take it into their own hands. And so we're finally at that point. It's a turning point. Again, right place, right time. That's been very newsworthy the last couple of weeks. We're in the tent with DoD. There are others that are circling. They're in the junior rare earth space. They're trying to get in the tent. We were fortunate enough to get there a couple of years ago and develop our tech and develop really good relationships. And now we're looking to build on that. So it's right place, right time. And I think it's just going to be a very exciting end of 25 and into 26, even more exciting.
Well, what an exciting interview. Ucore Rare Metals Incorporated. Remember that name, write it down. You've got those ticker symbols multiple times. Visit us here at the Investor Brand Network and hit on those investment considerations, which I am going to politic for, need a strong amount of updating because it's a longer list just off of this interview. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak with you today, Pat. Incredibly insightful into your company. A lot was learned by myself, even doing my due diligence on your company beforehand. Congratulations on an incredible 2025, and before that, setting the foundation. And I wish you and your entire team best of luck and great things here in 2025 and well beyond. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Much appreciated as well. For Pat Ryan, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for tuning in to the MiningNewsWire Podcast.
The MiningNewsWire Podcast is an original content production powered by IBN, a multifaceted financial news and publishing company that delivers next-generation corporate communication solutions. Utilizing proprietary corporate communication tools such as news aggregation and syndication, social communication, and brand awareness techniques, among others, IBN introduces both public and private companies to diverse audiences to enhance reach and recognition. IBN may receive compensation for services and solutions provided to its client partners. You should assume that the owners, officers, and directors of IBN or financial analysts mentioned in this production may hold a position in and may intend to trade the securities in their own accounts. This production is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell any securities that may be mentioned in this production. The information in this broadcast is presented solely for informative purposes and is not intended to be or should it be construed as investment advice. As in all investments, investment in the featured companies carries inherent investment risk. Listeners should review the companies thoroughly with a registered investment advisor or registered stockbroker. This production by IBN is not purported to be a complete study of the featured company or other companies mentioned. Information used in statements of fact have been obtained from featured companies and other sources but not verified nor guaranteed by IBN as to completeness and accuracy. Such information is subject to change without notice. Please see IBN's full disclaimers and disclosures at www.ibn.fm/disclaimer. Music in this episode is by Infraction. For more, visit inaudio.org.